Imagine a quiet kitchen at the end of the day. The washing up is nearly done, the kettle has clicked off. Outside, the light has faded, and the windows are dark mirrors. In the corner, next to the counter, sit two ordinary things that most of us barely notice. A kitchen rubbish bin, and next to it, a recycling bin. The lids open and close dozens of times a day. Peelings, packaging, receipts, empty jars, cardboard, tea bags, bottles, tins. Little moments of your life, dropping away with a soft thud or a rustle. Tonight, we are going to follow two of those little collections. One bag of general rubbish, one bag of mixed recycling. We will watch them leave your kitchen, travel through your building, out into the street, onto trucks, through transfer stations, sorting plants, and then further still, to places you will probably never visit. Along the way, we will look at what the system does well, where it struggles, and how your choices fit in. Not in a judgmental way, not to make you feel guilty, just to bring a bit of calm clarity to a process that is usually hidden behind a plastic lid. So, let's start with the simple moment when your hand reaches for the bin. You hold a scrunched piece of packaging. You hover for a second between the two lids, one marked for recycling, one not. You drop it in, and the lid closes. The sound is small, but behind it, an entire chain of work and machinery begins. Tonight, we will give that chain a voice. It is early morning now. You tie a knot in the black rubbish bag and lift it from the bin. It is heavier than it looks. Inside, there is food that did not get eaten, bits of broken objects, soft plastics, things that do not fit into any neat category. Next, you take the clear or colored bag that holds your recycling. Bottles clink against one another, cardboard rustles. There is a hint of labels, logos, and yesterday's newsprint. You carry both bags out of the kitchen, along the hallway, and down the stairs. If you live in a flat, you may walk through a shared corridor. If you live in a house, it might be a short trip through a back door. The air outside is cooler. You place the bags in their assigned spot. Maybe there is a wheelie bin instead, or a communal recycling bin. Maybe there are colored boxes or caddies for different materials. For a few hours, they sit there, lined up with other bags and bins from your neighbors. Each one is a little snapshot of a household, what people bought, cooked, opened, used, and finished. Nothing here looks particularly organized, just a row of bags, a faint smell, and the quiet clatter of bottles as someone else adds their recycling. Then, somewhere down the road, you hear a low rumble. A collection truck is making its rounds. It stops, starts, stops again, working steadily along the street. Workers lift bins, hook them onto the back, and watch as the contents are tipped into the truck with a heavy, muffled crash. Recycling is emptied into a different compartment, or even a separate vehicle, depending on your local system. Your two bags join hundreds of others. The contents start to mix and compact. Cardboard squashes flat. Bags split and merge into one shared mass. For general rubbish, the truck is not sorting anything. It is simply collecting, packing, and moving on. For mixed recycling, there may already be some separation. Glass aside from paper, plastics aside from metals, or everything may travel together to a central point that does the sorting later. From your point of view, the process is quick and slightly loud, then gone. You close the door. The street falls quiet again. But your bags are now on their journey. The truck does not carry your rubbish all day. At a certain point, when it is nearly full, it drives not to a distant landfill or plant, but to a nearer facility called a transfer station. Think of this as a halfway house. Rubbish and recycling from many local streets arrive here, in a series of trucks. Each one backs up to a large concrete bay, opens its rear door, and tips out its load. Your bag, which was tucked in the middle, tumbles onto a growing pile. For a moment, the space is noisy. Engines roar, hydraulics hiss. A bulldozer or loader rearranges the heap, pushing it into neat mounds. Then, as each truck leaves, the building hums instead of roars. At a transfer station, the goal is simple: consolidate. It is inefficient to send many small refuse trucks on long journeys to faraway sites. Instead, waste is collected locally, brought here, and then loaded into larger containers or trailers that can travel more efficiently. Your rubbish bag finds itself scooped up by a loader and dropped into a bigger container, perhaps a sealed compactor that squeezes many tons into a dense block. Your recycling bag, if collected separately, may be tipped into a different bay and sent along a distinct route. The transfer station is not very glamorous. It is concrete, steel, and equipment designed to be washed down and cleaned. It is also surprisingly organized. Floors are swept. Liquids are collected and treated. Scales measure everything that comes in and goes out, for billing and planning. Nobody here has time to examine your individual items, but taken together, they provide data. Tonnages rising or falling over the year, proportions of different waste types changing as habits shift. Once the large trailer is full, its door is sealed. Your bag, now anonymous among thousands of others, is carried onward. For general rubbish, the next stop might be a landfill or an energy from waste plant. For recycling, the next destination is a sorting facility where the interesting part begins. Section 4. Sorting the recyclables, machines and many hands. Let's follow the recycling now and leave the general rubbish sealed for a moment. The trailer carrying mixed recyclables arrives at a materials recovery facility, often called an MRF. From the outside, it is another big industrial building, usually on the edge of a town or in an industrial estate. Inside, it is one of the busiest, most mechanical places your kitchen waste will ever see. The trailer tips out onto a reception floor. Loaders push material onto a series of conveyor belts that climb, dip, and snake through the building. Your old cardboard cereal box, aluminium drinks can, glass jar, and clear plastic bottle are all in that moving river. The first step is usually to remove anything that really does not belong. Large pieces of metal, wood, textiles, or objects that would damage the machines. Workers and simple equipment pull these out early. Then, the sorting begins. Big rotating drums or trommels separate items by size. Cardboard and paper tend to ride up over certain screens, while heavier objects drop down. Magnets lift ferrous metals like steel cans. Eddy current separators push non-ferrous metals, such as aluminium, into their own stream. Optical sorters watch plastic items as they pass. By shining light and measuring how it reflects, they can detect different types of plastic and fire short bursts of air to flick them into the right chutes. Glass is often separated earlier and crushed into small pieces called cullet, which can be cleaned and melted into new jars and bottles. Throughout this process, people still play a role. Staff stand along the lines, removing contaminants, checking quality, and dealing with odd items the machines do not recognize. By the end, what began as a mixed pile of packaging has been separated into neat bales. Stacks of compressed cardboard, cubes of aluminium cans, bundles of clear plastic bottles, tubs of sorted glass. Your original recycling bag no longer exists as a bag. Its contents have been teased apart and reorganized. From here, these bales travel to reprocessors. Paper and cardboard may become new packaging or tissue products. Metals are melted and turned into new cans, car parts or appliances. Plastics are washed, shredded, and sometimes turned into pellets for new containers, textiles, or construction materials. The system is not perfect. Not everything can be recycled endlessly. Some plastics are hard to reuse. Contamination reduces quality. But a significant portion of what you placed in that recycling bin moves back into the economy as material, rather than lying in a hole or being burned. Your part in this was simple. You rinsed a jar. You flattened a box. You put items in the right container. The system did the heavy lifting. Let's follow the recycling now and leave the general rubbish sealed for a moment. The trailer carrying mixed recyclables arrives at a materials recovery facility, often called an MRF. From the outside, it is another big industrial building, usually on the edge of a town or in an industrial estate. Inside, it is one of the busiest, most mechanical places your kitchen waste will ever see. The trailer tips out onto a reception floor. Loaders push material onto a series of conveyor belts that climb, dip, and snake through the building. Your old cardboard cereal box, aluminium drinks can, glass jar, and clear plastic bottle are all in that moving river. The first step is usually to remove anything that really does not belong: large pieces of metal, wood, textiles, or objects that would damage the machines. Workers and simple equipment pull these out early. Then, the sorting begins. Big, rotating drums or trommels separate items by size. Cardboard and paper tend to ride up over certain screens, while heavier objects drop down. Magnets lift ferrous metals like steel cans. Eddy current separators push non-ferrous metals, such as aluminium, into their own stream. Optical sorters watch plastic items as they pass. By shining light and measuring how it reflects, they can detect different types of plastic and fire short bursts of air to flick them into the right chutes. Glass is often separated earlier and crushed into small pieces called cullet, which can be cleaned and melted into new jars and bottles. Throughout this process, people still play a role. Staff stand along the lines, removing contaminants, checking quality, and dealing with odd items the machines do not recognize. By the end, what began as a mixed pile of packaging has been separated into neat bales. Stacks of compressed cardboard, cubes of aluminium cans, bundles of clear plastic bottles, tubs of sorted glass. Your original recycling bag no longer exists as a bag. Its contents have been teased apart and reorganized. From here, these bales travel to reprocessors. Paper and cardboard may become new packaging or tissue products. Metals are melted and turned into new cans, car parts, or appliances. Plastics are washed, shredded, and sometimes turned into pellets for new containers, textiles, or construction materials. The system is not perfect. Not everything can be recycled endlessly. Some plastics are hard to reuse. Contamination reduces quality. But a significant portion of what you placed in that recycling bin moves back into the economy as material, rather than lying in a hole or being burned. Your part in this was simple. You rinsed a jar. You flattened a box. You put items in the right container. The system did the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, the black bag of general rubbish has not been forgotten. From the transfer station, it travels with many others to one of two main types of facility: a modern landfill or an energy from waste plant that burns rubbish to recover energy. First, imagine the landfill. The word can conjure images of uncontrolled dumps, but modern engineered landfills are more regulated. When a landfill cell is built, engineers line it with layers designed to protect soil and groundwater. Dense clay, synthetic liners, and drainage systems work together to capture liquids, called leachate, that form when rain percolates through waste. This liquid is collected and treated so it does not seep into the ground untreated. Waste is brought in by large trucks, tipped into active areas, then spread out and compacted by heavy machines. Each day, a layer of soil or cover material is placed on top to reduce smells, litter, and pests. As organic material in rubbish slowly decomposes without much oxygen, it generates gas, mostly methane and carbon dioxide. At engineered sites, wells and pipes capture this gas. It can be burned in flares or used to generate electricity, turning a potential hazard into useful energy. Your black bag is now a compressed, buried piece of that evolving, layered mass. Over years and decades, its contents break down at different rates. Some materials vanish quickly, others persist as archaeology of everyday life. Now, picture the alternative route: an energy from waste plant. Here, rubbish is not buried, it is burned in a controlled way to release energy. Trucks tip loads into a large bunker. From there, cranes feed the waste into a combustion chamber, where it burns at high temperatures on a moving grate. The heat boils water to create steam. The steam drives turbines that generate electricity or sometimes heat for local buildings. The process reduces the volume of waste significantly. What remains is ash, which is treated and can sometimes be used in construction materials. Modern plants are fitted with air pollution control systems. Flue gases pass through filters, scrubbers, and reactors that remove particulates and neutralize many harmful substances before the cleaned gases are vented. Regulations limit what can be released into the air, and continuous monitoring checks performance. Neither landfill nor energy from waste is entirely impact-free. Both involve large sites, many trucks, and careful management of environmental effects. But they are part of a ladder of options. The top rungs are reducing waste and reusing items. Next is recycling and composting. Below that, recovering energy from what cannot be recycled. At the bottom, final disposal. Your bag of general rubbish goes to those lower rungs. Some items inside could have been recycled, some could not. What matters now is that it is handled as safely and cleanly as the system can manage. On the horizon, cities and countries are working to send less to these endpoints by improving design, packaging rules, recycling capacity, and public information. From your kitchen, those changes can feel distant and abstract. But your bag has arrived, been processed, and is now part of a managed afterlife, rather than simply being thrown away and forgotten. Let's step back from the machinery now and look at the whole picture. One day in the life of your rubbish and recycling touches many places and people. It starts in your kitchen. It passes through collection crews who navigate early morning streets. It meets loaders, drivers, and weighbridge operators at transfer stations. It runs past the hands and eyes of staff in sorting plants. It is shaped by the work of engineers, chemists, planners, and regulators who design and manage landfills and energy from waste facilities. Farther upstream, designers and manufacturers decide how products and packaging are made, whether labels peel off easily, whether containers are made from one material or many, whether items are built to last or built to be replaced quickly. Farther downstream, reprocessors turn your bottles, cans, and cardboard into raw material again. Those materials return to factories, then shops, then homes. You are one part of this loop. You choose what to buy, what to keep, when to repair, when to discard. You separate items where the system asks you to. You rinse what you can. You put bags or bins out on the right day. Sometimes that is straightforward. Sometimes it is confusing. Not every label is clear. Different councils and countries have different rules. It can be tempting to feel either helpless or guilty. Tonight's journey is meant to offer something gentler. The point is not to give you a score. It is to show that there is a structure behind the lid of your bin. There are things the system does well. It collects waste reliably from millions of homes. It stops most of it piling up in streets and waterways. It recovers a significant amount of material for recycling. It handles hazardous aspects of waste more safely than in the past. There are things it struggles with: complicated packaging that is hard to recycle, single-use items that are convenient but fleeting, economic pressures that make landfilling or incineration cheaper than building new recycling plants, pollution and greenhouse gases that require constant effort to reduce. As an individual, you do not control all of that. What you do influence are small daily choices that, multiplied by thousands or millions of households, give the system room to work better. Choosing products with simpler, more recyclable packaging when it is practical. Using things for longer. Repairing what is worth repairing. Separating recyclables as well as your local service allows. Supporting policies and companies that invest in better waste systems. None of this needs to be a source of anxiety when you scrape leftovers into the bin. You can hold a more relaxed picture in your mind. When you tie up a bag and carry it outside, you can imagine the rest of its journey. The trucks, the transfer station, the sorting lines, the carefully lined landfill cell, the energy plant turning waste heat into electricity, the reprocessor turning your bottle back into material. You will probably never visit these sites. You may never see your bag again after it leaves your hand. But you now know that far from vanishing, it travels through a managed landscape with many checks, balances, and improvements underway. With that picture in mind, the simple act of opening the bin, pausing for a second, and choosing a container feels a little less trivial. It is you taking part in a quiet, everyday choreography that keeps cities livable. When you are ready to sleep, you can let that choreography fade into the background. The bins are out, the trucks will come, systems and people will take over. Your kitchen will be quiet again. Your head can be too.